Furthermore, right after this conversation, for some reason, the Russians decided to congratulate the Ukrainians with the American Independence Day because they launched a massive drone and missile strike.
Il fait de l'humour, il fait de l'humour. Il fait de l'humour. Il a dit, les Russes ont décidé de féliciter les Ukrainiens avec le jour de l'indépendance, avec des frappes massives, ou en tout cas avec une campagne de frappes massives. Il est méchant.
And mainly the Russians were attacking the city of Kiev. This is the map of approximate routes of Russian attacks, and as you can see, the Russians were attacking mainly from the northeastern part of Ukraine, so from the area of Kursk and Bryansk regions, and the Russians used significant number of drones and missiles to attack the city of Kiev. Later, the Ukrainians provided us this picture and these numbers, and according to them, the Russians during the previous 12 hours used 550 drones and missiles altogether. The Ukrainians managed to bring a lot of them, according to their numbers, according to their statistics, but when talking about pictures and videos that we were receiving during the previous night.
Donc, les Russes ont utilisé combien de drones si on lit bien là? Genre 200 drones et 200 missiles. En tout cas, ça ne fait que rejoindre les choses qu'on a déjà vues ici, qu'on a déjà commentées ici. Russes ont mis en place une production de drones à grande échelle, et encore ça c'est rien, puisque quand l'usine qui est en Nord-Corée va être effective et va livrer les drones, je pense que ça va être la catastrophe pour l'Ukraine. Je pense que là, le système de défense anti-aérien ou pas de l'Ukraine, qu'elle fonctionne ou pas, ça ne changera plus rien. Parce qu'on voit qu'à cause de cette saturation, ça devient même difficile pour les Ukrainiens eux-mêmes d'attaquer les drones ou de descendre les drones. Parce qu'on vous rappelle que là, ils sont en train petit à petit de perdre les pilotes de F-16. Ils n'en avaient déjà pas beaucoup, mais ils sont en train de perdre des pilotes de F-16. Ils sont déjà à 3 pilotes de F-16 perdus.
Lots of them, according to their numbers, according to their statistics, but when talking about pictures and videos that we were receiving during the previous night, we believe that Ukrainians most likely gave us wrong numbers. We have a lot of explosions, we have a lot of strikes, almost the entire southwestern and the western part of the city of Kiev was covered with fire. We have smoke screen, it's impossible to breathe in Kiev. The local authorities suggested the Ukrainians to stay at home or to wear some mask with the purpose to reduce damage they can get from this smoke screen or something like this.
Et donc, lui, il pense, ou alors eux tous pensent que l'Ukraine a menti sur les statistiques qu'elle donne par rapport à l'attaque de drones ou à l'attaque de missiles et tout le reste, parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'images qui sont arrivées qui montrent des dégâts, et ils ont appelé la population à ne pas sortir. Et donc, excusez-moi un peu, j'arrive pas à enlever ce truc-là, ici, sur le côté. En tout cas, ils ont appelé la population.
So the situation is very
comme vous voyez, la campagne a été massive. Les dégâts doivent être importants. S'ils auraient réussi à battre tout ce qu'ils ont abattu, peut-être que les résultats auraient été différents. Parce que là, ça semble important, les dégâts.
Because this is the picture that you can see from your window if you are in the city of Kiev, if you're living there. Furthermore, we have this map of the fire anomalies, and as I told you, almost the entire southwestern and the western part of the city of Kiev was covered with fire. Furthermore, as you can see, the Russians struck the area in the vicinity of the Juliana airfield, so we are talking about this territory. And according to many sources, the Russians were trying to destroy and to damage probably the final air defense system that Ukrainians still have, and most likely this Patriot system was destroyed. Furthermore, today we got another report from Germany, for example, because according to information we have, Friedrich Merz is trying to find a solution how to purchase several Patriot systems in the United States of America and to transfer them to Ukraine. So this is the article I'm talking about. Germany is looking for ways to supply weapons to Ukraine and wants to conclude a secret deal with the US on weapons for Kiev. The US decision to suspend expand the supply of a number of weapons to Ukraine has caused alarm in Berlin. The German authorities consider the lack of missiles for Patriot air defense systems in the Ukraine armed forces to be the most serious problem. And by the way, basically the previous night we saw exactly, and we can see right now this morning, the consequences of the absence of air defense missiles. And
yeah, Jesus, c'est quoi ce truc là d'apocalypse comme ça? En tout cas, il vient de dire que voilà, l'Allemagne ou MERS essaye de mettre en place un système d'aide à l'Ukraine en achetant des patriotes aux Américains pour les livrer ensuite aux Ukrainiens. Alors moi, je ne sais pas si on va lui en vendre à lui, parce qu'apparemment, de toute manière, pour la livraison, si tu achètes les patriotes ou si tu achètes des armes américaines pour les transférer à quelqu'un d'autre, il faut quand même l'autorisation des États-Unis. Donc je ne sais pas si une fois qu'il a acheté, ils pourront faire ce qu'ils veulent. Mais déjà, moi, ce qui m'inquiète, qu'on avait déjà vu ici, c'est que, à moins que ce soit vraiment pour des raisons vitaux, je ne pense pas que les patriotes vont encore être donnés comme ça en veux-tu en voilà, parce qu'on sait que leur propre stock à eux a diminué et la production ne suit pas.
Systems for Ukraine. At night, Ukraine was attacked by 11 missiles, 1 Kinzhal, 6 ballistic Iskander, and 4 cruise missiles, 539 drones. Ukrainians, according to them, managed to destroy almost everything. According
et aussi ma parole. Tu vois, les dégâts, ils sont comme ça. On te dit qu'on les attaque avec un Kinzhal, des Iskander et tout ça. Ils te disent qu'ils ont tout intercepté. Vous avez tout intercepté, c'est tout cramé comme ça. Et les Ukrainiens aussi, ma parole. Au bout d'un moment, il faut arrêter. Il faut vivre dans la réalité quand même au bout d'un moment. Même ouais, ça fait pitié de voir comment il y a le feu là. On aurait dit un truc de cinéma, un truc de jeu vidéo.
To pictures and videos we are receiving from the city of Kiev, it seems that Ukrainians haven't managed to bring down even a single air target or something like that.
En plus, il se fout de la gueule des Ukrainiens. Il a dit, quand on voit les vidéos qu'on a reçues là, c'est sûr qu'ils n'ont même pas réussi à abattre un seul missile.
So the situation remained tense and very interesting once again that this attack obviously has real connections with the phone conversation between Trump and Putin and Putin and Macron, and this attack is the consequences of those talks and those. So this is the situation.
Après moi, je suis pas sûr que ça soit la conséquence du coup de fil de Poutine avec Trump ou avec Macron, parce que dire ici que ces attaques sont la conséquence de cela, je ne pense pas. C'est que moi je vois dans ces attaques russes ces derniers temps, c'est qu'il y a une volonté d'atteindre moralement les Ukrainiens. Parce que là, même nous, quand on voit ça, même moi quand je vois ça, moralement je me dis pourquoi continuer en fait? Pourquoi continuer? Parce que là, même les gens derrière le front maintenant ne sont plus à l'abri. Et bientôt, ça va partir en quelque chose de plus violent en Ukraine. Parce qu'on sait que les Ukrainiens ont suivi les mêmes principes. Comme quoi, ça vient pas de loin. Hein. Comme quoi les Occidentaux sont à la base de toutes ces conneries. Parce que nous avons vu que leur proxy au Moyen-Orient, mais son système de défense, ses bâtiments stratégiques de défense au milieu de la population, les hôpitaux militaires au milieu de la population, exprès. Et après, ils accusent les gens qui étaient en train de finir à Gaza, que eux ils se cachent au milieu de la population. Et l'Ukraine fait pareil. Et à force d'avoir les bombardements des cibles militaires dans les villes comme ça, là, les villes vont se retourner contre les militaires. Parce qu'ils savent bien et ils voient bien qu'on ne les attaque pas pour rien. Même si dans les médias occidentaux et dans les médias officiels, on fait toujours croire que la Russie attaque les civils, ils savent bien, déjà quand c'était tombé à Soumy, qu'ils faisaient leur cérémonie militaire là, au milieu des civils. Vous avez vu la vidéo où il y avait un là qui a interpellé le gouverneur de la ville et qui disait que voilà, on t'aura. Eh bien, ça va mal tourner. Parce que quand je vois ça, moi j'ai pitié des gens qui habitent à Kiev.
And now let's discuss the situation on the ground because we have a lot of very interesting changes.
Ok, on passe à la situation sur le front. Ça va durer 10 minutes. Ok, essayons de regarder ça bref.
And first we are going to talk about the northeastern part of Kharkiv region. I would like to remind you that yesterday the Russian sources published this video, and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation confirmed that the group of forces north managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Milovoy, and the Russians published this video where we can see how two Russian soldiers raised their flags on the building in the central part, which was obviously geolocated. And based on this video, most of the mappers made adjustments of their own maps yesterday by coloring the entire village of Milovoy under complete Russian control. But of course, we had questions: where exactly is the border? Where was the front line of combat contact in this area? Of course, everybody colored the village of Milovoy, but yesterday nobody know for sure where exactly the Russians managed to get to. And today we have another article that was published by pro-Ukrainian mappers by Deep State, and they show indeed significant progress on the ground. Once again, this is the situation by the end of the 3rd of July of 2025. The Russians, most of the mappers colored just the village of Milovoy according to the border of this settlement on the map, and today Deep State adjusted this part of the front line significantly by adding probably 3 more times territories that the Russians established control over.
Si c'est vrai, c'est catastrophique, hein? Parce que j'ai l'impression que là en face c'est Kharkiv. Si les Russes sont rentrés comme ça, c'est que l'on craignait ou c'est que l'on présageait depuis des années et qui avait du mal à arriver est en train d'arriver. Parce que là, ils sont vraiment en face de Kharkiv. Là, on peut même plus dire que Kharkiv va à l'abri de l'artillerie russe ou quoi que ce soit. Parce que si je lis bien ici, là, ça a l'air d'être écrit Kharkiv, à moins que ça soit écrit autre chose.
This is a breakthrough, and now we have no doubts that the Russians are planning to move further in the southwestern direction, deep inside of the territory of Kharkiv region, with the purpose, at least for now, to establish complete control over the villages of Ambarne, Zabrynka, and the village of Khatnia. If the Russians are able to improve their positions this way, this is going to be a critical situation for the Ukrainians. Furthermore, by these attacks, the Russians would be able to get the roads, real roads that they can use to move faster and deeper inside of the Kharkiv Oblast. Furthermore, this is not the only progress on the ground. During the previous nights, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly, several kilometers in the southeastern directions towards the river Voskol. So, for example, this is the situation on the ground by the end of the 3rd of July of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 4th of July of 2025. As you can see, the Russians improved their position significantly in this area as well. And it seems that the Russians are going to advance further deep inside of the territory of the Kharkiv Oblast in the south, let's say western direction, with the purpose to maintain the lines and most likely to shorten the distances like this. So everything to the east of this red line is what the Russians are tasked for, and they're going to move further. As for now, it's very difficult to say what exactly we can see right now. It's just another media attack from the Russian side, because when talking about this northeastern part of the Kharkiv Oblast, there is no, let's say, strategical objects, just fields and the significant number of no-names villages. So that's it, nothing more. Maybe the Russians are advancing because they see that Ukrainians don't have any possibilities, forces, weapons to hold these territories. So that is why the Russians think that they can take as many.
Que les Russes avancent, c'est une chose. Mais souvenez-vous, si ça aurait été les Ukrainiens qui auraient avancé comme ça en Russie, nous aurions eu droit à une publicité ici là qu'on ne peut plus dormir. Souvenez-vous comment on n'a pas pu dormir pour le moindre petit village qu'ils gagnaient à Kursk. Et là, on voit que c'est en train de tourner très mal, en tout cas sur le côté où les Ukrainiens avaient l'habitude de venir jouer en Russie. C'est en train de très mal tourner. Et on en parle à peine. Par contre, on parle tous les jours des bombardements qui subit l'Ukraine.
Many as possible square kilometers, and they will do this during the next stage of the special military operation, or is something bigger. It's an attempt from the Russian side to cut and cauldron the city of Kupiansk, to finish the battle for the city of Volchansk, and to begin the offensive operation in the direction of the city of Kharkiv from the southwest, and in the direction of the city of Izium from the north. So as for now, it's unclear what exactly the Russians are going to do, so let's wait and see.
Tout à l'heure, c'était pas la grosse Kharkiv, c'était la petite Kharkiv, parce que c'était ici. Kharkiv, il est là. Ah oui, j'ai eu peur. Ça change rien, là. Qu'au moins, il rentre partout, là, c'est catastrophique.
and obviously we're gonna find this. Now let's move further. Another important thing is that during the previous night the Ukrainians also attacked the territory of Donetsk and Lugansk regions. We have lots of missile strikes, lots of explosions, and you know that this is very interesting because after the Russians managed to establish complete control over the city of Avdiivka, we haven't received even a single video or report that Ukrainians attacked the city of Donetsk or Makiivka. And the main reason of that was that the Russians, by taking under control Avdiivka and territories to the west and to the managed to create a buffer zone, and now the Ukrainians lost any possibility to attack Donetsk with artillery, with HIMARS missiles and so on. But I would like to remind you that Zelensky was talking a lot during the previous days about their own ballistic missiles, long-range ballistic missiles, and maybe the Ukrainians began using these long-range ballistic missiles with the purpose to attack Donetsk. Of course, this means that most likely the Ukrainians are going to intensify their attempts to attack the city of Donetsk and Makiivka in the future, but from the other side, this means that the Russians would be forced to create a bigger buffer zone with the purpose to force the Ukrainian artillery and rocket systems to move further deep inside of the territory of Ukraine and to reduce Ukrainian possibilities to attack the city of Donetsk.
Apparemment, ici, on a la ville de Donetsk qui est à l'abri de l'artillerie et des missiles ukrainiens, parce que les Russes ont avancé sur le front entre l'Ukraine et la Russie, qui est à nouveau bombardée par des missiles. Donc on dit probablement que c'est des missiles longue portée ou des missiles développés par les Ukrainiens eux-mêmes qui sont en train d'utiliser pour toucher Donetsk. Et en faisant cela, ils ne vont faire que renforcer la nécessité pour les Russes de pénétrer encore plus l'Ukraine pour éviter, ou pour en tout cas faire reculer l'armée ukrainienne pour qu'elle ne puisse plus s'en prendre aux populations civiles des oblasts qui sont venus protéger. Donc, je ne comprends pas le concept de Zelensky. Lui, s'il s'en sort, si les Ukrainiens le laissent s'en sortir à la fin de ce truc, de ce combat ou de ce conflit, c'est qu'il y a un problème. Moi, je ne comprends plus. Même l'autre loser du Moyen-Orient, il a compris. Au bout de 10 jours d'échange avec l'Iran, lui-même, il a dit non, vaut mieux qu'on mette une entourloupe en place pour que ce ne soit pas nous qui demandons à cesser le feu, mais que voilà, tu imposes la paix parce qu'on n'en peut plus. Mais Zelensky, il est en train de perdre des vies, des tas de vies qui ne sont pas les siennes, mais il continue.
Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians continued their offensive operation. And telling the truth, today we got additional statements from the soldiers on the ground that the Russians are at a final stage of the battle for the settlement of Kamenskaya. Furthermore, the Russians once again managed to improve their positions in this area. I would like to remind you that Russian offensive operation in this area started several days ago. And yesterday, starting on the 2nd of July more precisely, the Russians entered a final phase of offensive operation. And during this period of time, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly. This is, for example, the situation by the end of the 3rd of July. And this is the situation by the beginning of the 4th of July. As you can see, the Russians managed to secure completely the western flank of this area, and as you can see, this information was confirmed by neutral mappers. Furthermore, sources reported that today or tomorrow we should expect that the Ministry of Defense will confirm complete control over the settlement, and this is going to be a very important victory for the Russians in the Zaporozhye direction. Now let's talk about the South Donetsk direction. The Russians continue their offensive operation, and we have significant changes in this area as well. The Russians continue their offensive operation and continue bombing and attacking the settlement of Andreevka-Klivtsova, because this is the most important settlement that Ukrainians have to supply and support their contingent in the pocket that the Russians are trying to cut right now. I would like to remind you that the Russians are tasked to establish complete control over the villages of Malievka, Voskresenka, Mirne, Podubne, and Tolstoy. So this is the very important area for the Russians, and this is already almost the end of the Dnipro region in this area. During the previous 24 hours we have changes, and this is the first update to the west of the village of Veselaya. So this is the situation by the end of the 3rd of July. These territories used to be considered as a gray zone or contested area, and now we have no doubts that the Russians secured this territory completely. We came to this based on the video that was published by the Ukrainian sources of 67th Mechanized Brigade. In this video we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians with FPV drones, and one of the episodes of these attacks took place exactly in this point along this tree line. Based on this video, we have adjusted these territories under complete Russian control, and we see that the Russians continue shortening the distance with the village of Voskresenka. Furthermore, today, the pro-Ukrainian sources of Deep State made very interesting changes on the ground as well. Today, the Deep State shown us that the Russians have almost completely secured the village of Pidubna, and most likely tomorrow or today, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information, and we're gonna see lots of videos with Russian flags all over the entire settlement. Furthermore, according to pro-Russian resources and according to pro-Ukrainian sources as well, the Russians answered and improved their position significantly in the village of Tolstoy, so both villages could be taken by the Russians in coming hours. When talking about the Pokrovsk direction during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received anything special, just several mappers confirmed that yes, indeed, the Russians during the previous day managed to improve their positions. When talking about pro-Russian resources, they reported that currently there is no more gap and no more pocket between the villages of Marina, Malinovka and Mirolubovka. So this pocket was cut by the Russians, and the Russians managed to get for as close as possible to the villages of Mykolaievka, Novoekonomichna from the east and from the southeast. As for the city of Chasiv, we have changes as well. Today, several mappers confirmed that the Russians continue their advancing, and currently the clashes are taking place for the last square kilometers in this area. The Russians improved their positions in the northern part of the settlement, in the central and the western part of the settlements, and the Russians began offensive operation in the direction of the last micro-district of the city of Chasiv by the name of Zemlyanki. In this video, we can see how Russians were bombing and attacking probably the last stronghold in this area, which most likely the Russians are going to storm in the very coming days, very near future, probably in the very coming hours. So this is the situation. We expect that in 2 weeks, obviously in 2 weeks, the city of Chasiv would be taken and would fall in Russian hands. As for the rest of Ukraine, we haven't received anything special, just regular.
Ok, bon. Voilà le résumé de la situation. Bon, ça devient ennuyant presque à regarder puisqu'il n'y a plus aucune surprise de la part des Ukrainiens. Hein, au combat, c'est fini. À part essayer de contrôler l'avancée russe pour ce qui est de regagner quoi que ce soit, on peut oublier. Voilà pourquoi Zelensky, son discours a profondément changé et que maintenant il dit que les Russes ne veulent plus la paix. Alors qu'on lui avait donné les conditions de la paix, on lui a déjà donné les conditions de la paix et il ne les satisfait pas. Je vous souhaite à tous un excellent week-end. Peace out et merci.